Well, hello everyone. Don Garman here again, February 2025. Thought I would check in. I decided to wait until after we got through last week for the last of the Magnificent Seven earnings before I checked in. And I thought no one would notice. And sure enough, I got a few texts last week and over the weekend that I missed my video for the month of February. So here we are. Thank you for those of you who pay attention. And I would go on to say this could be a bit longer than some of them because I want to walk through some numbers that I have actually referenced many, many times in the past. But there are a few of you who have not heard this little uh, explanation before or shorthand for some of the things we look at. So I thought it might be helpful. And also thank a number of you who have reached out to Jackson to start the process of digging deep into your financial planning needs. And I know that's been helpful to those of you who have taken advantage of it. So congrats and kudos to you who have seized that opportunity. But we have been asked most often as we get now into this year, right? We're now into the second week of the second month, right? So we're halfway through this quarter and have gotten through a big part of the earnings season. Um, and so, what is the outlook? What are we looking for? What are we worried about? All of those types of questions. So, this is the chart that we have seen a lot, and those of you who have been with us for a decade have been hearing about this for more than 10 years. So what you see here in this line is the earnings per share of the S&P 500 as a whole, of all 500 companies as they report. And so when you can look through time here all the way back to 2011, and you can see 98 and 104 and 110 and 116, and these times when earnings go flat and then they surge and they surge and then they go flat and COVID decline, then work with their way back. What you're seeing, obviously, we know this, is companies, the 500 companies of the S&P 500, operating out in the world, creating products, solving their customers' problems, charging money to do that, paying the people that are in service of that end. And then at the end of the day, what they keep or what they have left is their earnings per share. And if we aggregate all of those and add all 500 together, you end up with this number. So even if you didn't look any deeper into any of this than this line, what you can see here really clearly is in 2011, the S&P 500 made just slightly under $100 in earnings. And if you believe this, somewhere between 2025 and 2026, we will cross $300 in earnings. So we can all do the math from 100 to 300, and you can also track the value of the indexes at roughly 3x of what they were 14, 15 years ago. So that's a bit of a, one of the things we can draw, the conclusions we can draw when we talk about it's a long-term proposition investing in stocks. And it's you're buying the earnings of the companies that you own, and at any given point, the future earnings of these businesses are being discounted back to the prices we see, which is why they trade at 20 times or 22 times their earnings estimates. So the direction of future estimates does matter. And if you're wondering why this 270, no one is, but if you were wondering why this 270 in December, the December 2025, in other words, this calendar year that we're actually in, looks familiar at 270, and you are a regular follower of this monthly chat, you would remember that the first time 270 showed up in our videos was December 21st, looking forward to 2024 earnings, the year that just passed. The quarter that we're reporting right now was the end of 2024 calendar year earnings. So my point is, if you look at the estimates for 2024 back in 2021 into 22, what you see is this steep decline in future estimates. This having to do with rate increases in 2022 and whatnot, and people marking down their expectations for the future. So I don't want to discuss any more about that other than to say the estimates for this calendar year were expected to be 270 back in 2022 and landed what will come in pretty darn close to this 239.27. So why do I bring that up? Because we are now in the process of marking down 2025 estimates from the 270 number to something that will be lower. If it goes all the way to 240, that would be bad. That would indicate a recession and slowing of estimates. And so obviously, all the different individual actors in the world are assessing the future earnings of their companies, right? Each analyst follows a set of companies, and they're trying to predict what these companies are going to earn this year. That's what an analyst does. That's what their job is. And so if the estimates for this year end up at 265 instead of 270, market's going to be fine in aggregate. Stocks here and there are going to struggle, as they always do, but there would be a corresponding number of stocks that do great, which more than make up for it. That's how it always worked. It has worked. So what we always have to worry about is those times when earnings contract. And so as you can think through a business, if you're used to or expecting a certain level of revenue and the revenue goes down a lot and your costs are relatively high, then the first thing that gets hurt is earnings, which is what's left after everything is paid. So that's why earnings are a volatile series, and particularly so in times of contraction of the economy. So there's no evidence that that's what's happening presently. Employment is strong. Interest rates, for all the drama, have been fairly stable for quite a while. And so the Fed isn't likely to go as low as they were during the acute, dramatic post-COVID era and to the post-financial crisis era before that. And at this point, it doesn't look like 6.5 or 7 on interest rates is in the cards either. So as we frequently find ourselves, we're in a bit of a crosswind. So we've got winds coming from the right to left and winds coming from the left to right. So we look back to the businesses that we have and the positions that they're in their markets and feel relatively confident that whatever the future holds, we have a portfolio of businesses that should be able to move through that environment as they have at all points along the way. As you might all already know, we're within 1% or so of our all-time highs reached maybe a week ago. So it's not been a particularly violent period for us. In fact, the entire market is within a 2.5% range of where it was since before the election. We've gone up, we've gone down. All told, we're a couple percent of where we were 4 or 5 months ago. And interestingly, already people are feeling that there's not the level of progress or the daily progress or the monthly progress that we were enjoying and had gotten used to in that kind of the post 2022 bloodbath in the market indexes, and then the eventual recovery into 23 and 24. Everybody enjoys that much more, and I totally get that, and I'm the first to understand that's a much more pleasant state. However, and I'll conclude on this metaphor. It's very similar to toward the end of summer, having that feeling that, boy, a little rinse of rain would actually be quite nice. Or coming to the end of winter when you think, man, sure would be great if I can, hose off the bikes and get them out there, or whatever the equivalent of that is for you. So it is an inchworm process. It's sometimes a couple steps forward and a step and a half back. It doesn't happen smoothly all the time as we would prefer. But the basic mechanism is not in a bad place. And so I think there's no reason, and in fact, we've gotten off to a nice start already this year, although that's always subjectively in the eye of the beholder, could always be better, I'm sure. So for that, I will leave it here. Or for now, I will leave it here. If you have any additional questions or want to discuss any of those topics in more detail, please let me know. We're sort of, searching for this next phase of the AI trade. Where does it go? And there are, it's a lot of haves and have-nots in the market underneath the surface right now. Usually that will be resolved by somewhat of a clear path. We've had the hyperscalers clearly dominating for some extended period of time, and I promise you that will not persist forever. This is not how it works. So we always have to be preparing for what is likely to come next, and I think we've got some of that already in place, and we will be adding more as conditions warrant. So pardon the long discussion, but here we are in February. Thought I'd give you a little bit more detail as to what the sort of larger levers are that we're paying attention to. So let us know if you need anything. As always, thanks for everything, and we will check in early March. And until then, talk to you soon. Thanks. Bye.